During morning formation, my commander called my name and I already knew my day was over. My name is Marcus, and I'm stationed at Fort Carson with the 4th Infantry Division. When Commander Pierce called out Marcus Langford, report to my office immediately after formation, I felt my stomach drop because I'd been expecting this moment for 3 weeks. It started small. Just little things that felt wrong around base, conversations that stopped abruptly when I walked into rooms, computer terminals that went dark whenever I approached. My bunkmate Trevor suddenly being transferred to a different unit with no explanation after we'd been talking about weekend plans the night before. The first real sign something was happening came during a routine equipment check 2 weeks ago. I was assigned to inventory night vision gear in the supply warehouse when I noticed serial numbers on some devices that didn't match our official records. The discrepancies were subtle, just a few digits off, but I'd always been good with details. I mentioned it to Sergeant Devon, thinking it was probably just a clerical error. He took the paperwork from my hands with this expression I'd never seen before, thanked me curtly, and told me he'd handle it from there. When I came back the next day, all the equipment I'd flagged had been replaced with units that matched the records perfectly. That's when I started paying closer attention to things around me. Small details that individually meant nothing, but together painted a picture I didn't want to believe. Like how my access card stopped working for certain buildings I'd always been able to enter. Or how my computer login started requiring additional security verification that other soldiers didn't seem to need. The mess hall conversations were the most obvious tell. Whenever I sat down with guys from my unit, the topics would shift from whatever they'd been discussing to safe, generic, military small talk, sports scores, complaints about the food, weekend plans that somehow never included me anymore. Last week during weapons training, I overheard 2 lieutenants talking in low voices near the ammunition storage. One of them mentioned my name, followed by words like containment and security risk and need-to-know basis. When they noticed me listening, they immediately changed the subject and walked away in opposite directions. I'd been hoping I was paranoid, reading too much into coincidences and isolated incidents. But yesterday, everything became clear when I found the manila envelope slipped under my door with no return address or explanation for how it got there. Inside were photocopies of documents with my name highlighted throughout, incident reports, security assessments, and investigation notes that painted me as someone who'd stumbled onto classified information that could compromise ongoing operations. The documents referenced equipment serial numbers, the same ones I'd questioned in that warehouse 2 weeks ago. Apparently, my innocent inventory check had uncovered evidence of something much bigger than clerical errors. Something that required covering up and containing anyone who might have seen too much. I spent the night reading through everything, trying to understand exactly what I'd accidentally discovered and why it was serious enough to warrant this level of response. The picture that emerged was worse than I'd imagined. Standing in formation this morning, listening to Commander Pierce call my name with that particular tone that every soldier recognizes as bad news, I realized they'd been building a case against me for weeks, documenting every conversation, monitoring my access, preparing for this moment. When formation dismissed and everyone else headed to their assignments, I walked toward the command building knowing that whatever happened next would determine whether I left this base as a soldier or a security threat. I knocked on Commander Pierce's door at exactly 0800 hours and heard him call me inside. He was sitting behind his desk with a thick folder open in front of him and 2 men in civilian clothes standing on either side of the room. That's when I realized they hadn't just been investigating what I'd seen. At ease, Specialist Langford, Commander Pierce says, his voice steady but tense. The 2 men in civilian clothes straighten as I enter, exchanging glances that communicate volumes without a word. Sir, I respond, standing at attention despite the at-ease command. My body knows to maintain military bearing even as my mind races. These gentlemen are Special Agents Donovan and Reeves with the Defense Intelligence Agency, Commander Pierce says, gesturing to the men. They've been investigating a situation that, unfortunately, you've become entangled in. Agent Donovan, the taller of the 2 with a close-cropped haircut that screams former military, steps forward and places a black folder on the commander's desk. Red text stamped across the top reads, Classified, Nightfall. Specialist Langford, Donovan says, 2 weeks ago, you reported a discrepancy in night vision equipment serial numbers. Do you recall the exact numbers you flagged? I swallow hard. Yes, sir. Units NV4872X through NV4879X. The official inventory listed them as NV4872B through NV4879B. Reeves nods, impressed. Good memory. Donovan opens the folder and turns it toward me. Inside are photographs of what appear to be the same night vision units I'd flagged, only they're being held by men in desert camouflage that doesn't match any U.S. military pattern I recognize. These images were taken 3 days ago near the Afghanistan-Pakistan border. Donovan explains, the equipment you identified is part of a Black Ops shipment that went missing 6 months ago, equipment that shouldn't exist in any official record. My mouth goes dry. I don't understand. Our warehouse shouldn't have had that gear in the first place. Exactly, Commander Pierce says. That's what raised the alarm. Someone has been using Fort Carson as a distribution point for stolen military technology. Reeves steps closer. When you documented those serial numbers, you unwittingly collected evidence of an internal weapons theft operation. The question is, why did you photograph those specific units? I didn't. I was just doing inventory, I stammer. It's standard procedure to document discrepancies, which is why you're standing here instead of being arrested, Donovan says. But you've been placed under surveillance since that day. Your access has been restricted. We needed to determine if you were part of the operation or just in the wrong place at the wrong time. The realization hits me like a punch to the gut. Trevor, my bunkmate, he was transferred because he saw your notes, Commander Pierce confirms. He reported it to his CO, who alerted us. We moved him for his protection and to see if anyone would approach you once he was gone. Reeves slides another document from the folder. Your bunkmate, Trevor Matthews, is actually Corporal Trevor Winters, military intelligence. He was already embedded at Fort Carson as part of this investigation when you stumbled onto evidence. The pieces click into place, the strange looks, the conversations that stopped when I entered rooms, the equipment that mysteriously disappeared and reappeared. I wasn't paranoid, I was being watched. Sergeant Devon, I say, the name leaving a bitter taste in my mouth. He took my paperwork. He's involved, isn't he? The three men exchange looks before Commander Pierce nods. We believe so, but we need concrete evidence, which is where you come in. Donovan places a document on the desk and slides it toward me. This is a non-disclosure agreement. By signing it, you acknowledge that everything discussed in this room is classified at the highest level. Disclosure to unauthorized personnel is punishable under the Espionage Act. And if I don't sign, I ask, already knowing the answer, then you'll be processed for court-martial under Article 92 for dereliction of duty and potentially Article 104 for aiding the enemy, Reeves says without emotion. Your documentation of classified equipment without proper clearance constitutes a serious security breach. My hand trembles slightly as I take the pen Commander Pierce offers. I sign my name, feeling like I'm signing away much more than my right to speak about this. What happens now, I ask. You'll be escorted to your barracks to collect essential personal items only, Commander Pierce says. No electronics, no paperwork, nothing that could be compromised. You'll then be transported to a secure facility off base for debriefing. For how long? As long as necessary, Donovan says, closing the folder. You're a key witness now, Specialist Langford. The equipment you identified is just the tip of the iceberg. We have reason to believe multiple shipments of advanced tactical gear have been diverted through Fort Carson over the past year. As if on cue, two MPs appear in the doorway. Not regular Fort Carson MPs, these men are wearing DIA tactical gear, with sidearms that look far from standard issue. Pack light, Reeves advises as the MPs motion for me to follow them. Where you're going, you won't need much. I look back at Commander Pierce, searching for some reassurance, but his face is unreadable. I realize in that moment that my life as I knew it ended the second I noticed those serial numbers didn't match. Sir, I say, offering a crisp salute. Request permission to contact family. Denied for now, Pierce responds, returning the salute. All communications will be monitored and approved through Agent Donovan until this operation is complete. As the MPs escort me from the building, I notice soldiers from my unit watching from a distance. Their expressions a mix of curiosity and concern. I wonder how many of them knew what was happening. How many might be involved? One thing is certain as I'm led to a black SUV with tinted windows instead of a standard military vehicle. I've stepped into something much bigger and more dangerous than I could have imagined. And there's no going back. The secure facility turns out to be an unmarked building about 40 miles from Fort Carson. No signage, no military markings, just a concrete structure surrounded by chain-link fence topped with razor wire. The two DIA agents escort me through 3 separate security checkpoints before I'm led to a windowless room with nothing but a metal table, 2 chairs, and what's obviously a two-way mirror. Get comfortable, Agent Donovan says, dropping a thin folder on the table. We'll be here a while. 3 days, to be exact. 3 days of the same questions asked different ways, of sleep deprivation and fluorescent lights that never turn off. They want to know everything about the night vision gear when I first noticed it, who had access, who might have seen me documenting the discrepancies. Why did you take photos of the serial numbers? Agent Reeves asks for what feels like the 20th time. Like I said, it's standard procedure. I repeat, my voice hoarse from talking. When inventory doesn't match records, we document it. I wasn't trying to. Donovan slams his palm on the table. This isn't standard equipment, Langford. These aren't supposed to exist in any official record. Someone put them there for a reason. On the second day, they change tactics. A different agent, Vasquez, according to his ID, enters with a laptop. He opens it and turns the screen toward me. The images hit me like a punch to the gut. These were taken 8 days ago in Yemen, Vasquez says calmly. Notice anything familiar? The photos show men in desert camouflage moving through a village at night. They're carrying American weapons and wearing night vision goggles, the exact units I'd flagged during inventory. The men using this equipment killed 14 civilians that night, including 3 American aid workers. Vasquez continues. They knew exactly when and where to strike because they could see in the dark. Your equipment made that possible. It's not my equipment, I protest, but the words sound hollow even to me. No, but you found it, Commander Pierce says, entering the room for the first time since we arrived. And now we need your help finding who put it there. Pierce dismisses Vasquez and slides a stack of papers across the table. Warehouse access records for the past 6 months. I want you to go through them. Flag anyone who doesn't belong or appears too frequently during odd hours. I spend hours poring over the records, my eyes burning from exhaustion. Names and timestamps blur together until patterns start emerging. Sergeant Devon's signature appears repeatedly on transfer forms, often for late-night shipments with vague descriptions like tactical supplies or field equipment. Here, I say, pushing a page toward Pierce. Devon signed for equipment transfers on these dates, but they don't match any scheduled training operations. And look at these timestamps, 0200, 0330. Why move gear in the middle of the night? Pierce nods, unsurprised. We've been watching Devon for months, but he's not working alone. Someone higher up is providing clearance codes, authorization papers. Is that why my access card stopped working? You thought I was involved? Initially, yes, Pierce admits. When you started noticing things, we had to determine if you were part of it or just observant. By watching me? Bugging my room? The realization hits me suddenly. Wait, you bugged my barracks? Pierce doesn't deny it. Standard procedure when investigating potential security breaches. It worked in our favor, though. Whoever's behind this was watching you too. They were concerned about what you might have seen. That night, they moved me to a small but more comfortable room with an actual bed. I'm told it's for my protection. I'm now a potential witness rather than a suspect. I collapse onto the mattress, too exhausted to care about the camera visible in the corner of the ceiling. I wake to a guard shaking my shoulder. Package arrived for you, he says, handing me a small envelope. Inside is a single playing card, the 3 of spades, scrawled across it in familiar handwriting. Watch your 6. They know. Trevor. It's a code we developed during field exercises, a warning system when we couldn't communicate openly. The 3 of spades meant imminent danger. Before I can alert anyone, alarms blare throughout the facility. Security breach in Sector 4, a voice announces over the intercom. All personnel implement lockdown procedures. The guard pulls his sidearm. Stay here, he orders, moving to the door. The lights cut out a moment later. Emergency lighting bathes the hallway in red. Through the small window in my door, I see shadows moving too many, too fast. A burst of gunfire erupts from somewhere close by, then another. The guard outside my door drops suddenly, blood pooling beneath him. I grab his fallen weapon and flatten myself against the wall beside the door. Years of training kick in. Assess, plan, execute. The door handle turns slowly. When it opens, I don't hesitate. I drive my shoulder into the door, slamming it into whoever's entering. A man in black tactical gear stumbles backward. I strike him with the butt of the gun and he goes down hard. More gunfire echoes down the hallway. I hear Agent Donovan shouting orders somewhere nearby. I grab the fallen man's radio and tactical vest, checking the magazine and the weapon I've taken nearly full. Target not acquired. A voice crackles through the radio. East wing, clear. They're searching for someone. For me. I move quickly through the corridor, staying low. At the junction ahead, I spot Commander Pierce with 2 DIA agents, pinned down by gunfire. Langford, Pierce calls when he sees me. This way, I sprint toward them as bullets chip concrete from the walls around me. One of the agents returns fire, covering me. Who are they? I gasp as I slide into cover beside Pierce. Professional hit team, he says grimly. Came in through the service entrance, knew exactly where security was positioned. They're after me? Pierce nods. You're the only one who can identify everyone involved. If you testify about those warehouse records... A grenade bounces into the hallway. The DIA agent closest to it shouts a warning and lunges, covering it with his body. The explosion is muffled by his sacrifice, but the shockwave still knocks us backward. Move, Pierce orders, pulling me toward an emergency exit. Vehicle waiting outside. We need to get you to a secure location. As we burst through the door into the night air, I realize the full weight of what's happening. This isn't just about stolen equipment anymore. The serial numbers I documented were evidence of a weapons trafficking operation run by people within Fort Carson, people willing to kill to keep it quiet. And now they know exactly who I am. The SUV screeches to a halt at the edge of a dense forest. Commander Pierce kills the headlights and turns to me. This is as far as we go by vehicle. We're compromised. My side throbs where shrapnel from the explosion caught me, but adrenaline keeps the worst of the pain at bay. I check the weapon I took from the fallen attacker, a modified M4 with suppressor and advanced optics. Military issue, but with serial numbers filed off. Who are those men back there? I ask, scanning the tree line. Professional contractors, Pierce says, his voice tight. Ex-military, hired to clean up loose ends. You're the biggest loose end in this operation right now. We move into the forest on foot. The moon provides just enough light to navigate between the trees. My infantry training kicks in. Stay low, move quietly, leave minimal trace. Pierce matches my pace, and I realize he's not just a desk commander, he's seen combat. We need to separate, he says after we've put a mile between us and the vehicle. They'll have tracking teams following us by now. Where am I supposed to go? The reality of my situation hits me. I'm being hunted by professional killers, cut off from my unit, with no official support. Pierce hands me a small satellite phone. There's only one number programmed in it. Captain Elena Reyes, JAG Corps. She's been running a parallel investigation into weapons disappearances. She's the only person outside my direct team I trust. Why would a JAG officer help me? Because she's the one who flagged the suspicious transfer orders in the first place. She's been building a case for months. Pierce checks his watch. I'm heading north to create a diversion. You go west, follow the stream. Call Reyes when you reach higher ground. Before I can respond, Pierce clasps my shoulder. Trust no one at Fort Carson, Langford. Whoever's running this operation has high-level access and influence. We split up, and I move west as instructed, using every stealth technique I learned in training. The stream provides cover noise for my movement and masks my scent trail. I wade through shallow water for nearly a mile before climbing a rocky embankment to higher ground. The satellite phone connects after 3 attempts. A woman answers, voice clipped and professional. Authentication code? I repeat the sequence Pierce gave me. This is Specialist Marcus Langford. Commander Pierce said you could help. A pause. Where are you now? Forest west of the containment facility. There was an attack. Pierce created a diversion. Listen carefully, Langford. I've been investigating weapons transfers from Fort Carson for 11 months. The night vision equipment you found was part of a much larger operation. They're moving experimental targeting systems next worth millions on the black market. Who's behind it? That's what we need to prove. I have a theory, but without hard evidence, it's just speculation. Pierce was helping me build a case. Sergeant Devon, I say. He took my paperwork about the serial numbers. Devon was found dead in his quarters this morning, she replies. Gunshot wound to the head. They're calling it suicide, but the timing is suspicious. My blood runs cold. They're cleaning house. Exactly. And you're the last loose thread. Pierce contacted me 3 days ago, said they were bringing you in for questioning. He suspected someone was trying to frame you as the inside man. Pierce's words from our first meeting echo in my mind. Your bunkmate, Trevor, reported it to his CO, who alerted us. We moved him for his protection and to see if anyone would approach you once he was gone. Captain Reyes, I need to get somewhere safe. I have information that could identify who's running this operation. There's a hunting cabin 20 miles northwest of your position. I'll text coordinates to this phone. Get there by dawn, and I'll have someone meet you. The connection cuts out. I check my surroundings before continuing west, following a game trail that leads deeper into the wilderness. The night is cold, and my thin t-shirt offers little protection. The wound in my side has stopped bleeding but throbs with each step. By sunrise, I reach the cabin, a small, weathered structure, nestled against a rocky outcropping. I approach cautiously, circling twice to check for traps or surveillance before entering. The interior is sparse but clean. A wood stove, single bed, table with 2 chairs. On the table sits a laptop computer, powered off, with a note. Seek your connection. Password, Nightfall. I power up the laptop. Enter the password. The screen displays a video call interface that connects immediately. Commander Pierce appears, looking haggard but alive. Good. You made it, he says. Captain Reyes? She sent me here. Said you suspected I was being framed. Pierce nods. When you identified those serial numbers, you stumbled onto something bigger than either of us realized. We've been tracking weapons disappearances for months, but couldn't pinpoint who was authorizing the transfers. Sergeant Devon was middle management, taking orders from someone with much higher clearance. Pierce leans closer to the camera. I've been feeding false information through channels I suspected were compromised. The latest intel suggests a major transfer is happening tonight. Advanced targeting systems for the new Apache helicopters. Where? Remote training site in the Northern Range, Area 47B. Officially closed for environmental remediation, but I've detected unusual vehicle movement there in the past week. Pierce's expression darkens. This is where it gets complicated, Langford. I need you as bait. Bait? My stomach tightens. Whoever's running this operation thinks you have evidence that could expose them. We've let it leak that you escaped with documentation and are hiding at that training site. If we're right, they'll send a team to eliminate you and recover whatever they think you have. And I'm supposed to just wait there to be killed? No, my DIA team will be in position, monitoring the entire operation. We need to catch them in the act with the weapons and the buyers together. I consider my options, which are few. When do we move? Sunset. Captain Reyes will guide you to the insertion point. The connection ends, and I spend the day resting, cleaning my weapon, and preparing mentally. At dusk, a knock at the cabin door reveals Captain Reyes tall, stern-faced, with sharp eyes that miss nothing. Ready? She asks, handing me a tactical vest and night vision goggles. We travel by foot through dense forest until we reach the perimeter of the training site, a cluster of abandoned buildings used for urban warfare exercises. Reyes points to a central structure. The exchange is supposed to happen in that building. Commander Pierce's team is already in position. You'll enter through the east door and wait in the main room. Make it look like you're reviewing documents. What if they shoot me on sight? They won't. They need to know what you know first. She hands me a manila folder. These are blank papers, but they won't know that until they get close. The DIA team will move once the buyers arrive. I take the folder, my mouth dry. How do you know they'll come? Because Lieutenant Colonel Harris confirmed he'd handle it personally. The name hits me like a punch. Harris? The battalion XO? Reyes nods grimly. We've suspected for months, but couldn't prove it. He has access to all the necessary systems, authorization codes, and the authority to move equipment without question. As darkness falls, I move into position. The abandoned building smells of dust and mildew. I set up at a table in the main room, spreading the blank papers before me, playing my role as bait. An hour passes, then another. I hear vehicles approaching multiple engines, cutting off simultaneously. Footsteps outside, voices speaking in hushed tones. The east door opens, and Lieutenant Colonel Harris enters, flanked by 2 men in civilian clothes. Specialist Langford, he says calmly. You've caused quite a problem. I stand slowly, hands visible. Sir, didn't expect to see you here. Harris smiles thinly. I'm sure you didn't. Those documents on the table, are they the only copies? Yes, sir. I gesture to the papers. Everything I found about the weapons transfers, the serial numbers, the warehouse access logs, the shipping manifests. Harris approaches, his men keeping their weapons trained on me. He reaches for the folder, glances inside, then looks up with cold fury. Blank paper? You think this is a game? No game, sir. Just wondering why a lieutenant colonel would be selling American weapons to terrorists. Harris laughs. Terrorists? Please. Private military contractors with government contracts. The distinction is important for the profit margins. The door behind me opens again. 3 more men enter Middle Eastern, wearing expensive suits. One carries a metal briefcase. Is this him? The lead man asks. The soldier who discovered our equipment? Yes, Harris replies, and he's been handled. The man nods appreciatively. Good. We have payment for the targeting systems. When can we inspect the merchandise? It's in the truck outside. But first, Harris turns back to me, drawing his sidearm. We need to finish this. The windows explode inward as flashbang grenades detonate outside. DIA tactical teams breach through all entrances simultaneously. Gunfire erupts, and I dive for cover behind a concrete pillar. Harris fires wildly, catching me in the shoulder before Commander Pierce tackles him from behind. The buyers scatter, but are cut down by precise fire from the entry team. I crawl toward a metal case that skidded across the floor in the chaos, the evidence cache containing the actual targeting systems. A wounded buyer crawls toward it too, pistol raised. Despite my injured shoulder, I lunge forward, covering the case with my body as he fires. The bullet grazes my side, reopening my earlier wound. Pierce puts the buyer down with 2 shots, then kneels beside me. Langford, status! Still breathing, I gasp, rolling off the case. Got the evidence. The firefight ends as quickly as it began. DIA agents secure the room, zip-tying Harris, who spits curses at me from the floor. Captain Reyes enters, surveying the scene with grim satisfaction. Lieutenant Colonel Harris, she says formally, you're under arrest for weapons trafficking, conspiracy, and attempted murder of a U.S. soldier. As medics work on my wounds, Commander Pierce crouches beside me. Good work, Specialist. We got most of them. Most? I ask, wincing as pressure is applied to my shoulder. Pierce's expression darkens. Harris's buyer contact escaped in the chaos. He'll be long gone by now, but we've got Harris and the evidence. I'm loaded onto a stretcher, the world growing hazy as pain medication enters my system. Through the fog, I hear Pierce giving orders. See Captain Reyes documenting the weapons cache. What happens now? I ask as they carry me toward a waiting helicopter. Now, Pierce says, walking alongside, you get patched up. Then we have a long debrief ahead. This goes deeper than we thought, Langford. Harris was just one piece of a much bigger operation. As the helicopter lifts off, I catch a final glimpse of the training site, now swarming with military police and DIA personnel. Whatever I stumbled into with those serial numbers, it's far from over. And somewhere out there, Harris's contact is still free, knowing exactly who I am. The military hospital ceiling tiles have become my constant companions over the past week, 48 of them directly above my bed. I've counted them repeatedly during sleepless nights when pain medication wasn't enough to quiet my mind. My shoulder throbs beneath fresh bandages, a constant reminder of Lieutenant Colonel Harris's bullet. The armed guard outside my door shifts position every 30 minutes. Not regular MPs. These are DIA operatives in plain clothes, watching for threats both external and internal. The doctors and nurses need special clearance just to enter my room. How's our hero today? Agent Donovan asks, pushing through the door without knocking. His suit is freshly pressed, but the dark circles under his eyes betray his exhaustion. Not a hero, I reply, wincing as I adjust my position. Just a specialist who noticed the wrong serial numbers. Donovan smirks. A specialist who helped break open the largest military weapons theft ring in a decade. He drops a folder on my bedside table. Your testimony before the Congressional Committee is scheduled for next Tuesday. Closed session, obviously. Congressional Committee? The words feel heavy in my mouth. I thought this was just a military investigation. It started that way. Donovan pulls up a chair. But when a lieutenant colonel gets caught selling advanced targeting systems to foreign buyers, it becomes a national security issue. Congress wants answers about how this happened under everyone's noses. A nurse enters with medication, checks my IV, and leaves without speaking. The silence that follows feels weighted with unspoken truths. Did they catch him? I finally ask. Harris's contact. Who escaped? Donovan's expression tightens. Border Patrol picked him up yesterday, trying to cross into Mexico. Samir Al-Jabri, former military contractor with ties to 3 different private security firms. He was carrying documentation for the next planned shipment, experimental drone guidance systems. I let that sink in. The scale of what Harris had been orchestrating is still difficult to comprehend. What about the weapons? The ones that already made it out? Most have been recovered, Donovan says, but there's hesitation in his voice. A joint CIA Special Forces team intercepted a shipment in Yemen 3 days ago. The night vision equipment you initially identified was part of that cache. I close my eyes briefly, remembering the photos they'd shown me. American equipment in the hands of men who'd killed aid workers. And the ones we haven't found? That's an ongoing operation. Donovan stands, pacing to the window. Harris is talking, trying to cut a deal. Claims he was just one node in a much larger network. A knock at the door interrupts us. Commander Pierce enters, followed by a woman I recognize as Captain Reyes. She carries a leather portfolio and looks considerably more rested than when I last saw her at the training site. Specialist Langford, Pierce says formally. How are you feeling? Like someone used me for target practice, sir. A ghost of a smile crosses his face. Fair assessment. He gestures to Captain Reyes. The captain has some information you should hear. Reyes opens her portfolio, extracting several familiar-looking papers. Remember the manila envelope you found under your door? The one with documents about you being investigated? I nod slowly. Those documents had been the first indication that I was being watched. Planted misinformation? She says, laying them on the bed. Harris had these created and delivered to make you paranoid, to make you look unstable if you started talking about being under surveillance. So I wasn't actually being investigated? I ask, confused. Oh, you were, Pierce clarifies, but not as a suspect. We were monitoring you as a potential witness from the moment you reported those serial numbers. Harris was running a parallel false investigation to discredit you. The realization hits me, how carefully orchestrated the whole thing had been. And Trevor, my bunkmate? Pierce exchanges glances with Donovan before answering. That's partly why we're here today. There's a decision you need to make. Captain Reyes takes over. The Department of Defense is impressed with how you handled yourself throughout this operation. Your attention to detail, your ability to maintain composure under extreme pressure, and your integrity in the face of attempted framing. What she's trying to say, Donovan interjects, is that you have options. Military intelligence has a position open for someone with your particular skills. Alternatively, you could accept an honorable discharge with full benefits and a significant compensation package for your troubles. I stare at them, processing this unexpected fork in my path. And if I want neither, if I just want to go back to my unit? Pierce smiles. A genuine one this time. That option is also on the table. The 4th Infantry would be glad to have you back once you're medically cleared. Your actions have proven your loyalty and integrity beyond question. Before I can respond, there's another knock. The door opens to reveal a familiar face. Trevor, my former bunkmate, now dressed in the uniform of a military intelligence officer. Permission to enter, sir, he asks Pierce. Granted, Pierce responds, stepping aside. Trevor approaches my bed, looking both apologetic and proud. Hey, Marcus. Trevor, I say, unsure whether to be angry or relieved. Or should I call you Corporal Winters now? He winces. I wanted to tell you, but my assignment was to monitor warehouse activities without drawing attention. When you stumbled onto those serial numbers, it accelerated everything. You were undercover the whole time? Trevor nods. Internal affairs. We suspected someone was moving equipment, but couldn't pinpoint who had the authorization codes. When you documented those serial numbers, Harris panicked. That's why they transferred me so suddenly. I was getting too close to connecting the dots through you. The playing card message makes sense now. The 3 of spades. That was you warning me. Yeah, when I heard they were planning to eliminate you at the facility, I had to risk breaking cover. He looks genuinely remorseful. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you sooner. Commander Pierce clears his throat. Thanks to your combined efforts, we've recovered nearly 80% of the stolen equipment. The targeting systems you protected at the training site would have given terrorists unprecedented precision in attacking civilian targets. I think about everything that's happened since that morning formation when Commander Pierce called my name, how a simple inventory discrepancy led to uncovering a weapons trafficking operation that reached the highest levels of Fort Carson's command structure. I need some time, I say finally, to think about those options. Of course, Captain Reyes says, gathering her papers. You have until your medical discharge to decide. As they prepare to leave, I call out to Pierce. Sir, one question. The new security protocols. What's changing? Pierce pauses at the door. Dual verification on all equipment transfers. Randomized serial number audits. And most importantly, we're implementing a direct reporting channel for inventory discrepancies that bypasses the chain of command. He gives me a meaningful look. Sometimes the most effective security measures come from the lowest ranking person who's paying attention. After they leave, I'm alone again with my 48 ceiling tiles and the weight of my decision. Military intelligence would mean a new career path, specialized training, higher clearance. Discharge would mean freedom, compensation, a fresh start away from the military that nearly got me killed. But as I lie there, I keep coming back to the 4th Infantry, to the soldiers who weren't part of Harris's operation, who deserve leaders with integrity, to the next specialist who might notice something wrong and needs someone who understands to listen. The sun sets outside my window, casting long shadows across my hospital room. Tomorrow, I'll give Pierce my answer. But tonight, for the first time since this all began, I sleep without nightmares, without the weight of secrets and suspicion. The serial numbers that started it all still float through my mind occasionally, NV4872X through NV4879X, but they no longer represent a mystery or a threat. They're just a reminder that in the military, as in life, it's often the smallest details that matter most.